Hello and welcome to this video. Last week we lost one of the greatest drummers in drum history, Jack DeJOHNETTE. I did a tribute at the time. I did it straight away. I have then had a few days to mull over his legacy, and I felt another video was in order. I felt that this is such a giant of contemporary jazz that I needed to go back in there. So I thought what I wanted to do was something a little bit more personal. So I'm going to be pulling out my 10 favourite albums by Jack DeJOHNETTE. I've also pulled out some other albums from the collection behind me. I've just got here about half an hour ago. There's so much there with Jack DeJOHNETTE on. This guy played with so many people, almost everybody. And it's really hard to do this accurately. God knows how many albums he played on, and God knows how many albums I've got with him on, which is a testament to this guy. This is a drummer that I've been listening to from day one, really. He's ubiquitous. He's incredible and ubiquitous. And Jack DeJOHNETTE, for me, has a style all of his own. He's not a straight jazz drummer. He's not a jazz fusion drummer. He exists somewhere in between. And also, in the history of drumming, he seems to take what the evolution of drums that comes through the bebop drummers like Max Roach, Kenny Clarke, and then you get the sort of Art Blakey's, Philly Joe Jones, you get your Joe Morellos, then you get your Tony Williams and Elvin Jones, and there's an evolution of jazz drumming in there. And then Jack DeJOHNETTE seemed to pull these things all together. And the styles of Tony Williams and Elvin Jones mixed with what the James Brown drummers are doing, some of the soul influences, he seems to roll that all together without ever compromising. There is no dodgy late 70s disco album that I'm aware of that Jack DeJohnette's on. He played heavy music all the time. I've got my 10 albums. This is by no means definitive, but if you are a Jack DeJohnetте fan, these are good albums to check out. Also, you know what I'm like, they're very sort of burgeoning fusion era albums. They are a run of albums here that I think are very, very important in the evolution of jazz rock fusion, like incredibly important. And the fact that Jack DeJohnettette played across all those albums at a certain time is something that's never really been quite explained, and I'm going to try and do that. What else have I got here? I've got a few other ones I've pulled out, which I'm going to go through now, that I thought I wanted to have a chat about. They're not necessarily my favourite ones, or he's not on them that much, but he is on a couple of tracks. So I'm going to start with this one here. This is a box set that came out a few years back, I suppose about 20 years ago, Foundations, the Keith Jarrett Anthology. And on disc one, we've got a good smattering here of the stuff he did with Charles Lloyd off the Sorcery album. And it's got also Love Number 3, which is a great track. That's all I own of the actual Charles. No, I've got another album. See, this is the thing. I've got a live album somewhere as well in there, and I didn't spot it when I was going through it. The Charles Lloyd quartet in the late 60s is a very, very important group. If I just dive into the liner notes on this one, if we can get some lineup and get some dates so I can be more accurate. Here we've got Sorcery, and on this is off the album Forest Flower, Charles Lloyd at Monterey. Now I think that's the live album I've got, although I think mine's under a different name. So we've got Cecil McBee on bass, Jack DeJohnetте on drums, Charles Lloyd on saxophone, tenor saxophone and flute, and we've got Keith Jarrett on piano. It's an incredible lineup. 1967, fusion is just about to emerge. We've also got here, recorded live at the Fillmore Auditorium, and from the album January Within on Atlantic Records, we've got Love Number 3. So very interesting. And I'm looking at the other sessions. You can see there's a pool of musicians in the late 60s. They've come out of a jazz background. They're of an age when they're contemporaries of the Beatles or a little bit younger. So they're influenced by the new sort of rock music that's emerging. They're interested in psychedelia. They're quite countercultural in their outlook. And they're all swimming around at this point, doing all sorts of different fusions of jazz and rock and psychedelia and trippy stuff, free jazz. And I think Charles Lloyd's very important. It's not fusion, there's no rock beats in there, but there's a certain ability to win over young people with jazz. This is, I think that people who wanted to go beyond the Grateful Dead, then started to check out, you know, certain albums. Now, of course, what I haven't included on here is the incredible Bitches Brew, which I haven't put on, and I've just realised, because I think it all coalesces around Bitches Brew, and Miles Davis seems to pull in a whole bunch of different musicians that were then going to go on and create jazz rock fusion. Jack DeJohnette is on there, of course, and Jack's the drummer in Miles's band. When you get Billy Cobham dropping in, or Lenny White dropping in, or whoever it is at these points, they're just guests. One of the things that people forget is if you look at Jack Johnson, the album which we can really say sort of underlined and consolidated jazz rock fusion, side 2 is Jack DeJohnette. And the riff that launched jazz fusion, the riff that I always say, you know, starts with Sly and the Family Stone and ends up with the Mahavishnu, that riff is not Cobham on drums on that bit. And this is something that is in the weeds. My belief is that in 1970, John McLaughlin turned up to a Miles Davis session. It was a Jack Johnson session. He started jamming on a Sly and the Family Stone riff. They hit record and they jammed on it and they really improvised on it. And I think that, for me, could be whenever they did that, whatever afternoon that was in whatever recording studio, I think it came out eventually on the big box set of Jack Johnson as a track called Willie Nelson, obviously named after Willie Thorne, the snooker player, and Nelson, the famous admiral. Now, I'm joking. There's a little joke for you. Now, of course, it's named after Willie Nelson, the country musician, which is an interesting title for the track, which really sort of consolidates jazz rock fusion for me. And Jack DeJohnette's there. Jack DeJohnette's been made to listen to James Brown. He's been taking on those James Brown rhythms coming from Clyde Stubberfield and Jabbo Sparks. And he's consolidated that with a sort of elastic time approach that's come from Tony and Elvin Jones. And it's that approach. Now, when we go to modern players now, some of the new hip-hop drummers like Chris Dave or drummers like Lewis Cole, their primary influence is Jack DeJohnette. And what they're influenced by is that period of drumming. The Live at the Fillmore album, which I haven't got, and I'm desperate to get a copy of it. I wish I had it. I've spent my whole life looking at it, think, shall I buy that in various record shops, and not ever bought it. And now I realise that more than perhaps Bitches Brew, more than In a Silent Way, that album could well be, on contemporary culture, the album that's had the most influence. So many people seem to reference that. I wish I could hold it up. It's an incredible album. I listen to it all the time, obviously on streaming, and I haven't got a copy to hold up. So this is what I'm doing before we get into my 10. There's ones here that I haven't got. I pulled out this. This is the sort of works best of by Tahei Ripdal. It's got a whole bunch of different recordings on, but it does pull a couple of recordings out on here on this best of. So we've got from the album Ripdal Vitas DeJohnette that came out in 78, we've got the track Den Forstne. Now, I've got that album somewhere, can't find it. That's an incredible album. We've also got another recording on here, if I can find it, which is called Tople Votte and Scourge, and that's from the album To Be Continued that was recorded in 1981. There's so much space in Tahei Ripdal's soloing approach. It's so icy and cold that it's like a magical mix to have Miroslav Vitos, Jack DeJohnette and Tahei Ripdal. And there's a space in which Jack DeJohnette can bring his cymbal approach in, which of course is unique. I think I'm going to talk about this one in a minute, once I get onto that. This album is not a great album to buy to represent Jack DeJohnette, but he is on it. And for me, this was the track. This is the one I kept going back to as a kid. It's off this album, Electric Guitars by John McLaughlin. It's on side 2 and it's called Do You Hear the Voices That You Left Behind? The lineup is incredible. John McLaughlin guitar, Chick Corea piano and mini Moog, Stanley Clarke acoustic bass, and Jack DeJohnette drums. It's like a tribute to John Coltrane. Jack DeJohnette is playing in a way that's just, it's revelatory. It was revelatory for me. The whole thing was to hear Stanley Clarke on acoustic bass, to hear Chick Corea playing sort of that McCoy Tyner-esque piano, and then halfway through moving to mini moog and soloing through those sort of blues stroke giant steps changes so fluidly. The incredible attack of John McLaughlin on a hollow body guitar but distorted, with his fierce picking, and underlying it is this sort of waves of rhythm coming off Jack DeJohnette, you know, sort of cradling the whole thing. This is a type of jazz rock fusion which hasn't got a name. It's not so much the rock beats, but the volume and the intensity of the soloing that makes it fusion. And I would say that that's an area that Jack DeJohnette was probably the greatest exponent of. This is a really interesting area to me, and this is the subtext of this video, is this early fusion wildness that we had before the disco stuff came along, and not necessarily made it worse. I like a lot of those disco albums. This is another track which is one of my favourite Jack DeJohnette moments. It is off this album. This nearly made my top 10. It's called It's Been Real, and it mixes sort of Celtic folk music with sort of modal post-Coltrane jazz. Jack DeJohnette's all over it. He's on a few of the other tracks as well. He's on Scriabin, which is Michael Brecker, Herbie Hancock, Charlie Hayden, Jack DeJohnette. Man, that's a hell of a line. These lineups, they're like superstar lineups. He's also on Don't Try This at Home, plays incredibly on that. And great to hear Mike Stern with Jack DeJohnette. Great to hear Mike Stern with a much more jazz-orientated drummer. So those are the albums that I haven't chosen. So we get into the top 10 then. So let's start with this, right? So I'm going to start and try and do this in a roughly sensible order. It won't be massively sensible, but it will be sort of sensible. I think we've got that there. Right, so let's have a look at these. There's a collection here, and it's really these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 albums I would say represent this other sort of much more fiery, free version of jazz rock fusion. The first album I'm going to offer is this, which is sort of sits in the middle of it. It's Live Evil. Live Evil came out in 1970, 71. It's basically the live band that Miles had at that time, which was Airtu on percussion, Keith Jarrett on piano. We've got Wayne Henderson, is it, on bass. I'm having to look, you see. Who else have we got in here? Oh, it says we've got Dave Holland on bass, who was there beforehand. This is a weird setup where you've got a funk soul bass player, and then you've got Dave Holland, who is obviously a very experienced jazz bass player. I think Dave Holland's on this, sorry, Jack DeJohnette's on this all the way through. Miles decided to pull in a guest on this album when they recorded it live, and that was John McLaughlin. I'm just checking who the electric bass player is on here. Really hard to see who the hell's on this album. We also get Hermeto Pascual on here as well, but I cannot see any credit for the bass player. It's written in such a strange way. It says there's Ron Carter on bass, so maybe I've got it wrong. That's why I had a desire to just check this out. And I don't think that's right. I'm sure there's electric bass on here. Ah, Michael Henderson. Sorry, not Wayne Henderson. Michael Henderson on bass. It's right on the crease in the middle. It's there. That's why I couldn't see it. It's here on the album. For me, when I was listening to Miles Davis, and I'd got Bitches Brew, and I'd got In a Silent Way, and I got Jack Johnson, I love those albums, but when I got this is when I got it. Again, another live album. I think what we've got here is this band with Jarrett were playing live all the time, and they were developing something. They were developing something that was beyond Miles's control in a way. When you read the interviews with them, they seem to often be going off on their own thing and hoping that Miles would like go where they wanted to go. And I think these being young musicians and wanting to be involved culturally, not necessarily play fusion, but be involved and relevant culturally, it gives it a certain thing. It's like quite revolutionary. It's a certain sound that we also hear on Tony Williams' Lifetime Emergency. There's a certain sound there. And if you like Tony Williams' Lifetime's Emergency album, these are all sort of companions almost to that. Another one I've got here is this one. Incredibly fiery. This CD's got 2 albums on, but you can see at the bottom, we've got an album called Mountain in the Clouds. It's by Miroslav Vitous. It's sometimes titled Infinite Journey as well. And this lineup is quite incredible. Miroslav Vitous on bass, Joe Henderson on tenor saxophone, John McLaughlin on guitar, Herbie Hancock electric piano, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. It's a great album, but the 10-minute opener, Freedom Jazz Dance, is a defining moment in jazz rock fusion for me. It's just so fiery and in your face. It really is something else. People go on about Emergency and they go, oh, it's incredible. It's a shame they didn't record it properly. What would it be like? They all wonder whether these things, but there's these other albums out there which give you another idea of what is happening around about John McLaughlin and the way people are playing with him and how they negotiate in this sudden, you know, brutally fast virtuoso and yet psychedelic guitar style that he's bringing in at that time. This album is a killer, and it's not that well known. Absolutely brilliant. Go and check out John McLaughlin's guitar solo and Freedom Jazz Dance. Even more out there is this one, Wayne Shorter Supernova. For me, this is equal to any of these albums in a silent way. Bitches Brew. I think this is even a little bit earlier. Yeah, this was recorded at the back end of 1969. The lineup's bonkers. Wayne Shorter on soprano saxophone, John McLaughlin on guitar. Facing off, Sonny Sharrock on guitar. John McLaughlin's out there. Sonny Sharrock's left. He's gone somewhere else. It's incredible. Miroslav Vitous on bass. Jack DeJohnette drums. We've also got Chick Corea on drums as well here. Ayetu on percussion. There's also a jazz standard, Gingy, which features Maria Booker, who was the wife of the classical guitar player Walter Booker, who plays on that track. And Maria Booker was so emotionally involved in this recording that when she came to record it, she actually bursts out crying, and it's left on the record. It's an incredibly emotional performance. This album is out there. If you know Wayne Shorter from, you know, Weather Report, this one is out there. It really is. Another incredible album. Joe Farrell Quartet, 1970. This is what these guys are doing at the time. This is where they were at. Again, we've got John McLaughlin, Jack DeJohnette, this time Dave Holland instead of Miroslav Vitous and Chick Corea. John McLaughlin only crops up on 2 of these, I think Motion, which is a full-on free jazz piece. But the version of Follow You Heart, which was known as Argon's Bag on Extrapolation, and then was recorded again on My Goals Beyond as an acoustic version. This is the definitive version of that. It's very laid back. It's not like these. The version of Follow On Heart on here is just so laid back and beautiful. John McLaughlin's guitar solo is concise. He doesn't play fast, but the playing and the space and the way it's recorded as well. This is on CTI. It's quite out there for a CTI album. And I'm going to throw into the mix as well. This is in part of my list. I'm going to throw into the mix this one as well. Another mind-boggling album from 1970. Joe Chambers is the drummer on a lot of these, but on the big sort of epic on side 2, Double Image, we get Jack DeJohnette. He's playing alongside George Davis and Wayne Shorter. We got Earl Tubbington also on saxophone. It's hard to work out the people on here. Miroslav Vitous on bass, Walter Booker on bass. We got Herbie Hancock on here as well. This is the incredible album. Dark, post-British Brew, pre-Weather Report. This is way better than the first Weather Report album. It's probably better than the second Weather Report album. It's not till we get to Sweet Nighter that we get something that is equal to this. This is an absolute masterpiece. An incredible cover, as you can see. Look how intense that is. Absolutely incredible. That could have nearly made it. It's just not enough of Jack on there. Right, I've got a few other ones to throw at you now. If I may be so bold. So, I've messed up my system here. Right, let's stick on the vinyl before we get to the CDs. Right, so, I haven't got a copy of Timeless, which is the 1975 album that came out on ECM under John Abercrombie's name. It features Jan Hammer on organ, Jack DeJohnette on drums, and John Abercrombie on guitar. You'll be shouting, I know, I can't believe I haven't got a copy of it. I just haven't got a copy of it. I've never bought a copy of it. I've listened to it loads. You know, it's an incredible album, but I haven't got a copy of Timeless. It's like, it's an essential album. It's got Jan Hammer on it. How could I not have a copy of it? The reason was when I was young, I never came across a copy of it. I have since, but I've never got around to buying it. It's one of those things. This is what you find out when we get into this malarkey of going through the albums, which I quite enjoy, because I see it myself. For me, I have to own a copy of Timeless. I can't believe I haven't got it. There's a whole bunch of albums. There's like, that could be a whole video on albums I can't believe I don't own. Recently, I've been ticking them off, you know, but there is a whole bunch of them. But when I was younger, wasn't so miffed about that because I owned this one instead. I managed to buy this because this came out close to when I was buying records in 1984. I think I bought this as it came out. Now, this is the same group. John Abercrombie guitar, Jan Hammer keyboards, Jack DeJohnette on drums, and then Michael Brecker's also on tenor saxophone. And I love Timeless, but this one's better for me because it's got Brecker on it, and because it's more fusiony. It's even got some reggae stuff on here, and Jan Hammer does more of his trademark keyboard stuff and contributes some incredible compositions, and it's absolutely immaculately recorded. This really is one of my favourite Jack DeJohnette performances on there. That's one of my favourite albums of all time. In and out. Say, if someone said to me, what's Jack DeJohnette like? What album should I go and get? He can get quite out there. But if you want him not so much out there and playing with a star-studded lineup and just delivering the goods, as only Jack DeJohnette could, recorded very well, really good production values, then it has to be this one for me. One of the greatest albums of the 80s in terms of jazz albums. Michael Brecker's first proper solo album. This is just something else. The lineup is quite incredible, although they haven't got it on the back of here. So to make sure I don't go wrong, I'll pull it out here. Yeah, so we've got Michael Brecker on tenor saxophone and Iwi, electric wind instrument. Jack DeJohnette on drums. Charlie Hayden on bass. Kenny Kirkland on piano. And Pat Metheny on guitar. And it is produced by the late, great Don Gronick. There they are in what looks like the Power Station recording studio. Lots of wood panelling, it must be. This is incredible. It verges towards fusion, but Brecker did the right thing, especially in the 1980s, of going for a much more sort of acoustic-y sounding band. The electric guitar, the Iwi, does just push it into the fusion realm a little bit, but it doesn't fall into the sort of horrors that many jazz musicians fell into trying to play fusion in the 1980s and trying to keep up with Michael Jackson. If you want out there, but still superstar lineup, production values, all that, it has to be this masterpiece. Pat Metheny, Song X, my favourite Ornette Coleman album, one of my favourite Pat Metheny albums. Jack DeJohnette, for me, was the element on this album that made me understand Ornette Coleman. There was a point, I think it's on Video Games on side 2, where he opens up and he starts swinging. And he's swinging so hard, and that's how I got into it. I suddenly realised, oh yeah, Ornette does swing. He does swing. It's jazz. It's just, I've got to find it. Sometimes it would emerge. And then you start to realise that Ornette is playing. There's much sort of free stuff, but he's actually a very bluesy player. There's a lot of bends. There's a lot of microtonic things going on. Pat Metheny is like some mad harmonic pixie. His solos on sort of guitar synth, which isn't his trademark, you know, Satan's trombone sound that he has. It's much more pixelated, and he sort of dances around Ornette. And the same is true of Donato Coleman, who I think is fantastic on here. Donato has got like a Simmons electric kit, and he is dancing around. So often with Ornette Coleman, there are two things going on at once. We have quite an established free jazz trio of Ornette, Charlie Hayden, and Ornette Coleman. And then we have these two elements coming in and upsetting the apple cart, which is Donato and Pat Metheny. That is a way to see it. And if you actually were to take out Donato and Pat Metheny, you might find that really, they're not playing like through chord changes and stuff, but they are. But there's a swing and there's a forward direction. It's a hard album to get. With these albums that are hard to listen to, sometimes I think I should do a series on how to listen to records. I was driven by the fact that I love these musicians so much. So if I bought an album with Ornette Coleman on, or Jack DeJohnette, or Charlie Hayden, or especially Pat Metheny, I would sit there and I would work at it thinking, well, it all sounds like gobbledygook to me, but they wouldn't do gobbledygook. Would Pat do gobbledygook? Well, now I know that they may well have done gobbledygook, because there's an aspect of free jazz where you deny the normal roots in music because it takes you to another place. And then sometimes I think with some free jazz, they don't allow themselves to be so free to let it take them to the place where it could be, if that makes sense. I could talk about this so much. Right, and I'm to number 10 now. No, I'm not. I'm on number 6, aren't I? No, I'm on number 7, that's right. I've got a few CDs to go. This video is chaotic. Don't worry about it. Well, you can worry about it. It's me that should be worried about it. It is the way it is. I didn't expect it to go like this. This is what happens when you don't pencil it out. I thought, I'm doing this morning. I drove to my studio. I really enjoyed it. I'm pulling Jack DeJohnette albums. Oh, that's great. That was good. Oh, should I put that one in? Then I pulled the 10 out that I knew. I just knew that they would be the 10. And I started talking. And I might not be as are you here still? Sorry. Right. I think this is Jack DeJohnette's done a bunch of albums under his own name. He's an incredible pianist as well as a drummer, a great composer. He's an all-round musician. There's a whole bunch of albums we could pick from. I've picked out 2. The New Directions albums are the essential albums. I haven't got those. The one that is my favourite I've pulled out is this one. Album recorded in the early 80s. It's got a very contemporary 1980s sound where the fusion guys are returning back to acoustic jazz. It's got that sound there. It's also got quite a free sound. The lineup is incredible. John Purcell, alto and soprano saxophone, Dane Murray, tenor saxophone, Howard Johnson on tuba, Rufus Reid on acoustic electric bass, and then Jack DeJohnette on drums. And it's got a sort of New Orleans early jazz sound. We've pretty much got a front line with the tuba, tenor saxophone, alto, sort of. No trumpet here. It just sounds unique. This album is unique. There's fusion stuff on here. There's pure jazz stuff on here. Funky New Orleans stuff on here. But this album's unique in its sound. And I think that's why I love it so much. You have to have this album to have this sound. And that is testament to a real incredible musician. Also, the soloing is brilliant. And it doesn't fall into someone sounding like Michael Brecker or someone sounding like, you know, John Scofield. It doesn't have that thing that I think has just affected a lot of modern jazz. These soloists, especially Dave Murray, that then became a superstar throughout the 80s because he had a much more rhapsodic sound that went back to people like, you know, Ben Webster and Johnny Hodges. And they are all there, jazz guys. They are there for you to go and listen to and pull from. That's you know, I want all the full-out fusion. I want to hear it all going bonkers and all the funky stuff. I want it. But what I want to hear is a soloist that when they start up, I go, oh, I didn't expect that. I want to hear a different sound. you know, this channel became a success because I dared to say, why do they all sound the same? And if you want to know what I mean, because of course, if you're involved in it, it's like, you know, if you're into fly fishing, you'll be able to tell all the difference between all the different types of fishing rods, wouldn't you? Oh, is that a Hardy Hawkins I see there? That's the only fishing rod I know, because that's the one my dad had. He used to say, this is a Hardy Hawkins, Andrew. And I go, yeah, big deal. I don't even know what that means. Right? If you're into contemporary jazz, then they will all sound different to you, but they don't sound as different as they did in the old days, because I think entertainment played a much greater part in what the function of jazz was. And people wanted to please the audience, not just through chops and playing fast, you know, fast 16th note runs, outside, inside, outside, inside. They wanted to show off their instruments. It's a very subtle point here. If you want to hear what I mean, go and listen to the solos on this and you'll go, yeah, these do sound really different, really different. Now, we got a couple of CDs here. I put this album in the top 10. I don't think it's a perfect album. It's another Jack DeJohnette album, but it came out in 1974, right in the middle of jazz rock fusion. Okay, this is the album, Sorcery. The lineup is Jack DeJohnette on saxophone. We've got Benny Maupin on bass clarinet, from the British Brew Band through Herbie Hancock. We've got the incredible John Abercrombie and Mick Goodrick on guitars, Dave Holland on bass. And apparently, there's a metaphone on here. I don't even know what a metaphone is. I think my phone is a metaphone, isn't it? Right, so what label did this originally come out on? Because this is a reissue. It's produced by Orrin Keep News, so that suggests prestige, doesn't it? This album is Jack DeJohnette trying to negotiate jazz rock fusion. He can't go there. There's a track on here called The Rock Thing, and it's a rock track with Jack DeJohnette on. Really interesting and not quite successful, to be honest, but really interesting. And the thing it preserves is that excitement that's in these early fusion albums I've been showing you. There is a suite, which is 50 minutes long, called the Reverend King Suite. That's quite out there. 4 Levels of Joy. There's some funky drumming on here. It's a really good album. I'm going to revisit this, actually, because I haven't listened to it a while. It might have been, it was just a bit beyond me when I got it many years ago. Obviously, I can't get through this without mentioning his work with Keith Jarrett in the trios. There's a whole load to choose from. The classic albums for the trios would be Standards 1, Standards Volume 1 and Standards Volume 2. They've settled in more on Volume 2, beautifully recorded in the studio, and it does sound, I mean, the version of Never Let Me Go on Volume 2 is just one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever recorded. So they're the ones to go for, but there are loads of them. I've pulled out a couple that I really like here. This is great. Tokyo 96. They've been going for years at this point. They're in each other's pockets. Beautifully recorded. A long set. It's got things like Billy's Bounce, which is quite fiery. They've also things, this is all jazz standards, Autumn Leaves. Very, very straight down the line jazz standards. There's a couple of other things on here which are a bit weirder. But I think my favourite one is this, Inside Out. When they were recording live, they would often go into free improvisational pieces. And that's what this is a collection of. So the track names: From the Body, Inside Out, 341, Free Far Day, Riot, When I Fall in Love with, which is a jazz standard right at the end, just to finish it off. And all this came from 2 dates at Royal Festival. That's quite incredible. Came out in 2001, 24 years old, beautifully recorded. If you want to hear some free jazz that's you might be able to get to easier than, say, listen to Supernova by Wayne Shorter, check this out, because it's a trio and you could listen to the communication. It's there right in front of you, and the communication is almost at a cyclic level. Well, it is at a psychic level. If psychicness exists, it exists within music and within jazz. And it existing at the highest level would be in the Keith Jarrett trio with Jack DeJohnette and Gary Peacock. They just, and you know what the transmission is between the musicians, right? And you can go watch the videos, you'll see it. It's love. They delight in each other. They just delight in each other. And then, do they then come back and do another recording? Of course they do. And that goes on for decades. They keep mating back up, not because it's commercial, not because it's going to sell records, but because they love doing what they love. And it's the love. It's not like being a virtuoso. Isn't this incredible? I've got to be impressed by how amazing they are. That's not what music is. Music is an expression of your love for the fellow person in the room, the fellow man or fellow woman. And it's a certain type of love, which is an aesthetic love. An aesthetic love may be the very thing that holds the whole universe together. You never know. You never know. So that was my, I came here because I thought the video I did is a tribute to him when I just found out, and I basically just sat in front of my window and put the camera up. You can hear the cars driving past. I thought it was a bit chaotic. I thought, I'm going to come down here, have the nice setting, all the nice lighting and all that bit, and have my albums to hold, and I'm going to do a nice, more structured video. But the truth is, it hasn't gone like that, has it? It hasn't gone like that. And I think that's the aspects of playing that I enjoy so much in these early fusion recordings. Before Mahavishnu come in, and then Weather Report, and then you've got Return to Forever, and before you know it's all nailed, and then you get Spectrum by Billy Cobham following you, and you get Headhunters, and before you know it, it's all that funky jazz thing. And what we've ended up with, a whole bunch of quite privileged kids who've gone to jazz college coming out, and because they can afford to bloody hire a studio like this and get in there and record their fusion, and they play very funky, maybe a bit of Latin American, they do all the right soloing, and they bang it out on the internet, and here we are, the snarky puppy world of jazz. This is something else. It's different. This is more life and death to me. This is more life and death. So that has been my follow-up tribute to Jack DeJohnette, my 10 favourite albums. I hope over these 2 videos I've done him enough of respect, because I feel I need to. And I hope that represents the importance of this guy to music. I keep going. I mean, I know we love our Vinnie Colaiutas and Steve Gads and all that type of stuff. But for me, Jack DeJohnette occupies another realm. He's almost beyond those players. And it's really hard to explain how a lot of these albums, I don't love them because Jack DeJohnette's all over them, which you would have if I was listening to a Dave Weckl album or Vinnie. I go, this album's amazing. Vinnie's amazing. I never feel that with Jack DeJohnette. And yet he's playing this incredibly technical stuff. He's all over the place. But his allegiance to the muse was so powerful that the idea that you would accuse him of overplaying or doing his signature chops or whatever it is, that just never happened. And it never happened from day one. It wasn't like he was playing like that earlier on and then he, got old and started to listen to a bit of Philly Joe Jones, It's not that, the sort of Steve Smith journey through jazz drumming. It's not like that. It's not about his knowledge of history or what he's studied. Because what he does has got very little to do with Max Roach or Big Sid Catlett or bloody, whoever it is, Papa Joe Jones. He's in the lineage of that, but Jack DeJohnette was Jack DeJohnette. And everything he did was him. I am really trying to put into words how strongly I feel about this musician, so that people who come to watch these videos may go, I will now go forward with a little bit of help, perhaps, from what I've said. And what I'm trying to get across is the love. It's like, I love this music, and this is why I love it. And that might just change the way somebody out there goes to the music. It might affect that somewhat. And this is a very important thing. I think that is something that needs to be hugely discussed at the moment on various YouTube videos across the world in terms of music. Forget about AI, forget about downloading, right? How do we get the audience to have the desire to educate themselves and get past the nonsense postmodern idea that something is good if they like it? That beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And there, contemplating on Jack DeJohnette and his life's work is where I am at. And I think that is where I bid you farewell on this video, to go and explore that one another time perhaps. Thank you for watching this one. I seemed to pull it together at the end a little bit, didn't I? I felt, even though it's so all over the place, there was a bit where I was just staring at albums trying to work out what I was talking about and couldn't remember people's names. At the end, I've been able to pull it together. I mean, you see the skill there, the YouTubing skill. You feel like you've watched something that made sense, don't you? With that, you know, just because I brought it up that little climax at the end, that emotional climax, talked about love and all that, you get fooled by all that nonsense, don't you? Oh, yes, you do. Like, subscribe, become a patron, free member or paid up member, become a member here, watch all the videos and watch the extra videos and all that sort of stuff. What else? PayPal tip jar. It's all there for you. It's quite early today. This is one of the earliest videos I've shot. I got up very early today. That's why it's very quiet outside. Very nice, very lovely, but I don't know if my brain's kicked in. I've had a cup of coffee. Anyway, I'm a bit hot in this jacket. I've got a new jacket. I've decided to smarten myself up, so I went up to the charity shop and I was very pleased to get this one. And I've looked at it on camera and it does look very, very good, I think. Had my hair cut. It's almost as though something massive's going to happen, isn't it? It's almost like there's going to be something huge. And he's suddenly looking more smarter. And he's had a haircut. He's even shaved. There's no dandruff sparkles, right? He's been managing to keep hold of that. What's going on with Andy? What's happening? I mean, and he keeps mentioning it at the end of the thing. I do feel like something big's going to happen. Hopefully. We're nearly there, I think. We're nearly there. Those of you who are the members can watch this now, and you will be the first to see or be talking about this. And I can't contain it, I'm not going to tell you what it is. But it's bloody exciting. There is a clue. There is a clue right in the video. There's an esoteric clue. But I don't know if you even seen it. It's that esoteric. Just so stretch. Bye-bye.